Cricket is where we start this edition of the SportsMax Zone. West Indies suffered defeat on day 3 of the first test against South Africa at Supersport Park Centurion. The Proteas, who started the day on 49 for 4 in their second innings, were dismissed for 116, their lowest ever test score against the West Indies. Kemar Roach led the Windies attack with 5 for 47, his 11th 5-wicket haul in tests. Aiden Markram again top scored for South Africa with 47. The Windies, chasing 247 for victory, were outclassed by the hosts. The Caribbean side was off to a terrible start, slumping to 33 for 5. They never recovered despite a valiant effort from vice-captain Jermaine Blackwood. He counter-attacked with 79 from 93 deliveries. The Windies eventually dismissed for 159. Kagiso Rabada was the 4th bowler in the match to get a 5-wicket haul, taking 6 for 50 as South Africa completed an 87-run win to take a 1-0 lead in the 2-match series. Jermaine Blackwood and Kemar Roach spoke with the media after the match.
If we could be a bit more selective, the way how we went about our business, I think today, we got out a bit too easy and too soft. I think if we were staying very positive, I think we could have get the runs, but obviously it's something we have to learn and learn fast as well, because we're facing against quality bowling, and once we can go out there and just express yourself and put away the bad balls and just keep out the good balls, I think we can beat South Africa. But we as a team, we have to believe that we can do that.
Yeah, it's a tough one to accept, but I know the group of guys we have, they're fighters. We communicate well, so I'm very confident going into the second test that we can correct some wrongs and get things right. But from a bowling perspective, I think the guy did a fantastic job to bring us back into the game. Giving us the 240 total to chase is pretty acceptable. So, just as bowlers, we've got to just keep learning, remain positive, take what we can from this match and just take it into the second match, and obviously just give South Africa a good run again.
Yeah, there you have it from Jermaine Blackwood, who overall was the best West Indies batsman for the match, scored 37 in the first innings and that's 79 in the second innings. And Kemar Roach bowling brilliantly on the third day, taking 5 for 47 in the second innings. Lance, Mariah, your thoughts quickly before we get Faz in on this discussion.
Yeah, well, I have to say, if I was Jermaine Blackwood, I would be extremely disappointed because, he really put up a show with the bat. And even before I get to Jermaine Blackwood, Kemar Roach single-handedly ensured that, he dismissed the South African batsmen for, a score that I felt as if was gettable, if I'm to say that. We could get that with the bat. But, as soon as we got to the crease, Lance and Ricardo, it's as if we forgot all the basics. And I always hear the players coming and saying, we're going to take positives from this loss, we're going to bounce back, we're going to ensure that we don't make these mistakes again. Then I watched the next match with a lot of optimism, hoping that what they said they would have improved from, and I see the same thing again.
Well, the fact is, when we were previewing yesterday, we agreed, and Faz had made the point that the lead that the South Africans had then was already a problematic lead for a West Indies run chase. So we can't say that we are stunned by what has happened today. In some ways, there was overall a good, fight by the West Indies team. But I don't think many people expected the West Indies to win this match.
Yeah, I definitely don't think Fazeer Mohammed expected the West Indies to win this match. Let's get him in on the discussion. Fazeer, if someone just came from outer space and you had to assess this first test match, how would you go about putting it into context?
I'll probably tell them to go to another planet and watch something else, but hopefully you all are seeing and hearing me loud and clear this time around.
Yeah. We are hearing you loud and clear. Was always going to be difficult on the final day, and the bowlers did a very good job, as Mariah pointed out. But I think we all knew that 246 might just be too much for that West Indies batting lineup, and so it proved.
Indeed it did, and this is nothing new. Let's face it, and I think you all encapsulated it perfectly. We know the challenges being faced by the West Indies with the batting lineup, especially against formidable bowling attacks, especially in conditions which are helpful for fast bowlers, pace and bounce. We saw all those challenges. Lance read it correctly when he said that look, even the lead going into this third day was already formidable, and the few runs that were added, that were credit still to the West Indies bowlers for the way they played it, the way they fought. Kemar Roach leading from the front, showing his value once again. But even with the attacking innings of Jermaine Blackwood, you just felt that it was beyond the reach of the West Indies. And in the end, South Africa won comfortably. And again, Mariah made a good point that looking at the positives, trying to take the positives, only to repeat the same old mistakes. And that continues to be the recurring decimal in West Indies cricket.
Yeah, and speaking about positives, I feel like I want to talk about South Africa and their bowlers, because what I saw from Kagiso Rabada, that 6-wicket haul that he had, Faz, there are so many things that we can learn from oppositions, the manner in which they go about their business, because, we go against many weak opposition, yet they put up a fight, a challenge, and sometimes that's all you really want to see from the West Indies players.
And you talk about Kagiso Rabada, you talk about Anrik Dorkia and the relative newcomers in Marco Jansen and Coetzee, the debutant. And you could see the bowling to a plan. Not that the West Indies haven't been bowling to a plan, but it's about being consistent with it and not being put off and thrown off by the counter-attack of the opposition. In this case, it was Jermaine Blackwood with a bit of the support from Jason Holder in their brief partnership. And even if the South Africans might have been rattled a bit, again, it was Rabada coming back into the attack to get that breakthrough, getting rid of Holder, and even with the continuing shot making of Blackwood, you just felt that there were too many weapons that the South Africans had available to them. And even with the early missed chance offered by Tejnarain Chanderpaul, I think what you're seeing is consistent quality from these South African seamers. They're young, they're full of energy, full of desire to prove themselves in the test format. And quite clearly, Mariah, they relish these conditions.
Yeah, and a test match finishing in 3 days. We've already spoken about us not playing enough test cricket. Just your thoughts, Faz. We've discussed this so many times, but, we always need your perspective. And maybe if you have a fresh perspective.
Well, I wish I could say something that we haven't said many times before, but really it's getting increasingly difficult for the West Indies to be competitive in this format away from home against formidable opposition, because we just don't have the foundation in our domestic game, in our regional game, in so many elements of our cricket to prepare young players. Ali Athanas, for example, will he get a chance in the second test match in just over a week's time? That could be a really daunting challenge for a young man not familiar with these conditions and playing at the Wanderers, which won't be all that different from Centurion. Will Hakeem Jordan get an opportunity, given the fact that it could be another fast bowler's track? Will Gudakesh Moti be left wondering, what was the purpose of even coming to this South African leg of this Southern African campaign? So there are so many elements that we find ourselves repeating ourselves, trying to find different angles to say the same thing. But really, there's not much different in both the manner of this defeat and the concerns looking ahead to the next fixture.
Yeah, and a quick point before we move on, Faz. I know Ricardo had this position that the West Indies bowlers were pretty poor on that first morning, and someone like Kemar Roach, who has been under a lot of pressure for his overseas stats, even though, his overall record as a test bowler is solid. His first 5-4 in an away tour since 2017, but he showed some experience and quality today, didn't he?
Yes, he did. And even if he does appear as if he's coming closer to the end of his career, you have to give him enormous credit, because again, the persistence, the perseverance, bowling a good line, a good length, knowing that if you bowl seam up, you're going to get a bit of movement. It's almost impossible in those conditions for a batsman to last very long without a bit of counter-attacking brilliance and a bit of luck as well. And that's why you have to give someone like Kemar Roach consistent credit. He's just gone past Joel Garner's tally of test match wickets. He continues to move up the ladder. And really, he is the one consistent shining light in West Indies bowling for more than a decade. And even though he's had injuries, he's had problems with form especially away from home, you really can't take anything away from a performance like what we saw today, even though in the end, the West Indies lost again.
Yeah, Shannon Gabriel proved expensive, of course, 1 for 26 from his 3 overs, but the other bowlers very good on day 3. Kemar Roach 5 for 47, Jason Holder 2 for 7 from 7 overs, and 2 for 30 for Alzarri Joseph, the bowling figures for the West Indies. All right, Faz, let's head across to India. Australia poised for victory in the 3rd test being played at Olkar Stadium. It wasn't the best batting performance by the Baggy Greens, but they completely dominated with the ball. Gerard Morrisili has the recap.
The overnight unbeaten batters for Australia.
Day 2 of the 3rd test, Australia resuming their innings on 156 for 4, a lead of 47 runs. India with their minds set on restricting the visitors. Cameron Green got the ball rolling with 2 boundaries early in the day, but Umesh Yadav removed him soon after. Green gone for 21, the only other Aussie batsman to make it into double figures. And Australia did not recover from Green's dismissal, losing their last 3 wickets for just 5 runs. Australia bowled out before lunch for 197, a lead of 88 runs. Steve Smith tried the combination of Mitchell Starc and Matthew Kuhneman at the top, but it was Nathan Lyon who provided the first Indian wicket. He also got rid of Rohit Sharma early. India again losing both of their openers cheaply. Cheteshwar Pujara tried to fight back. Here is one of his 5 fours.
Yeah, with on offer, down the track, trying to go away from him.
Shreyas Iyer also counter-attacked, trying to beat Kuhneman out of the attack. He was the only other Indian batsman to reach 20, scoring 26 of 27 deliveries. But Starc would stop his onslaught, and the Aussies were smelling blood.
What a catch!
Pujara brought up his half-century shortly after the tea break.
And that's his 35th half-century. And it's come at an invaluable time, and it's been a brilliant one for India. Cheteshwar Pujara gets a standing ovation from everyone here.
But he would soon perish in the Lions' den, gone for a well-fought 59 from 142 deliveries. Lyon would wrap up the innings and the day with the wicket of Mohammed Siraj to finish with his best innings figures of 8 for 64. Australia head into the 3rd day requiring 76 runs to win the 3rd test.
Yeah, the Aussies catching really well on day number 2, and they have an opportunity to win this 3rd test match. And of course, if they win, if they avoid defeat, they qualify for the World Test Championship final. Fazeer Mohammed is still with us. Faz, you know, India would always back themselves, not just with their bowling, but especially with their batting in these difficult conditions. But somehow they have not been able to handle the 3-spin attack put forward by Australia in this test match. What is different, if anything, you think?
Well, I think, you know, we talked about this yesterday, and once more, you have to ask yourself, if the Indians felt that by producing another turning track, having their array of spinners, 2-0 up in the series, with all the talk about panic in the Australian camp, if they just simply had to turn up and they would dominate, and then to have a situation now where you have Australia with 3 frontline spinners getting the better of the Indians, and were it not for Pujara's excellent half-century, the match would have been over already in favour of the Australians. So I'll have to say credit to the Australians for bouncing back from really 2 dispiriting performances. And for India, this is really going to be a chastening experience, because there was already speculation that for the final match of the series, that it was going to be a green top with India already 3-0 up and playing things differently. Well, if they lose tonight, and you can't take it for granted, because the Australians could very well struggle to get those few runs at less than 80. But if they do lose, that might change the game plan once again going into that 4th and final test.
Yeah, it definitely could. Of course, still a lot for both teams to play for. As I said, Australia hoping to avoid defeat to qualify for the World Test Championship final. India can also confirm their place with 1 more victory in this series. So we'll see how it goes, Faz, if the twists and turns will be enough for India to get the better of Australia, or whether the Aussies will deliver and get the job done. We'll talk again tomorrow.
Take care.
All right, Fazeer Mohammed there. That's it for our cricket segment. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to be talking NBA basketball. Kevin Durant. Yeah, he's played his first match for the Suns.
Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.